the BCS theory. The name implies actually Bardeen-Cooper-Schrieffer theory in honor of this physicist. A key conceptual element in this theory is the pairing of electrons into Cooper pairs through interaction with the crystal lattice. This pairing results from the slight attraction between the electrons related to lattice vibrations. The coupling to the lattice is called phonon interaction. Thus, it is clear that for superconductivity to occur, a pair of electrons with opposite spin or momenta must be formed within the lattice of the specimen. Because it was found that the superconductors usually exhibit isotope effect, which says A raised to alpha Tc must be a constant, where A is the isotope mass, alpha is usually a constant, Tc is the critical temperature. Isotopes of same element will have the same atomic number but different mass numbers. Since they have the same atomic number, each member of a single isotope family must have the same number of conduction electrons. The difference in mass number of different isotopes of the same element arise due to the difference in number of neutrons in each of these isotopes, and it has nothing to do with the number of conduction electrons. Keeping this in mind, look at the equation. A raised to alpha Tc is equal to a constant. As told earlier, A is the mass of the isotope. Hence, this equation shows that if A increases, T must decrease to keep the product A raised to alpha Tc a constant, because alpha is a constant here. Or if A decreases, Tc must increase. Then only the product will remain a constant. So it is clear that different isotopes of the same element show different critical temperature even though the number of electrons in each of these isotopes remain the same. If it were the flow of electrons that result in superconductivity in specimens, these isotopes would have shown the same critical temperature even though their mass numbers are different. Thus, it is clear that superconductivity arises not due to the flow of conduction electrons. This figure shows the isotope effect shown by mercury. Here, 1 by root A, where A is the atomic mass, is taken along the x-axis, and the critical temperature of different isotopes of mercury is plotted along the y-axis. You can see that the critical temperature increases gradually as 1 by square root of A increases, or in other words, as A decreases. To account for this discrepancy, in 1954, Bardeen, Cooper, and Schrieffer suggested that the superconductivity in metals, specifically type 1 superconductivity, arises due to the flow of Cooper pairs. Let us see how this happens. So now let us move on to BCS theory of superconductivity. Let us consider a metal, and it consists of positive ion core known as lattice, as shown in this figure. An electron in such a metal normally behaves as free electrons. These are the electrons. This is one such metal lattice which consists of a large number of free electrons. Let us consider a single electron, which is represented as electron number 1. This electron is usually repelled from other electrons due to their similar charge. However, this electron is actually moving through a positive charge region. This represents the positive charge region, which is created by the ions attached to these lattice points. So this electron can also attract the positive ions of the rigid lattice of the metal, since electron and positive ion of the lattice have opposite charges. So this electron attracts these positive ions attached to these lattice sites. In such a lattice, a passing electron which attracts the lattice usually causes a slight ripple towards its path. So this is the slight ripple which is produced here, which results in a region of increased positive charge density. This is the region of increased positive charge density. Because here two adjacent positive charges or positive ions are attached to the lattice sites and they are displaced towards the moving negative electron. As this electron moves through the lattice, this increased charge density will also displace along with the electron. That means this moving electron will attract the subsequent lattice ions also. That means this ripple moves through this crystal lattice. Now let us assume that there exists a second electron represented as electron number 2 passing in the opposite direction. This means that this electron has a momentum and spin opposite to that of the first electron. Then this electron will be attracted towards this increased positive charge density. Remember, we already have our first electron which is moving together with the increased positive charge density. Now we have two electrons moving as a pair along with this increased positive charge density in the lattice. This constitutes a coupling between electrons. This attraction due to the displaced ions can overcome the electron repulsion that exists between two electrons when they come close together. These coupled electrons are known as Cooper pairs. In a superconductor, when the temperature and applied magnetic field values are below their critical values, many such pairs of electrons will be generated as seen from this figure. This figure clearly illustrates the formation of Cooper pairs. Now let us consider this figure. Here the first electron displaces the positive ion attached to the lattice site towards it. Now this second electron will be attracted towards this positive charge density and these two electrons will move together as a pair through the lattice. Now let us define Cooper pair. Cooper pairs are a bound pair of electrons formed by the interaction between the electrons with opposite spin or momentum in a phonon field. So what is a phonon field? To understand that, let us consider this figure. As found from the previous figures, when the electron displaces the positive lattice core, it actually causes a sort of disturbance in the lattice, which results in the vibration of the lattice points. As we know, these disturbances will be shifted from one lattice point to the next as the electron moves. As lattice is periodic, which spreads over the entire area of the specimen, these lattice vibrations will spread over the entire specimen in the form of waves. This is because every oscillation or vibration can act as a source of wave. Thus, lattice vibration energy is continuously transferred from one lattice point to the next in the form of a wave. However, these lattice vibrations are also quantized as in the case of fluxons or photons. That means only certain integral values of lattice vibrations are allowed according to quantum mechanics. Here we should apply the principles of quantum mechanics as these pairs of electrons are also quantum particles. So these quantized lattice vibrations are actually known as phonons. The field created by the quantized lattice vibration represents the phonon field. The Cooper pairs move in this phonon field. However, The quantized lattice vibration and the formation of Cooper pairs are microscopic phenomena or quantum phenomena. Once this Cooper pair are formed, it spreads over the entire region of the superconducting specimen, which is macroscopic in nature. Hence, we consider the formation of Cooper pairs via lattice interaction or this electron phonon electron interaction via lattice field as a macroscopic quantum phenomenon. In the normal state of a metal, the electrons move independently, whereas in the BCS state, they are bound into Cooper pairs by the attractive interaction. This is the reason why many metals are good conductors under normal temperature and pressure. For example, copper is a good conductor at normal temperature and can never act as a superconductor because Cooper pairs are not at all formed in such conductors. Hence, not all good conductors are superconductors. Now consider the quantum particle Cooper pairs. These are formed of two electrons moving together in a lattice field. There are two types of quantum particles known as bosons and fermions. Bosons are quantum particles with zero or integral spin like photons, gravitons, etc. Whereas fermions are quantum particles with half integral spin like electrons, protons, etc. As we know, the spin of electron is half. Moreover, fermions, like these electrons, obey Pauli's exclusion principle. No two electrons can have the same quantum number, or you can never find two electrons having the same spin in the same quantum state. So a single energy level can accommodate two electrons only. In the case of Cooper pairs, we have two electrons having opposite spin and they move together as a pair of particles. Hence, their total spin will be zero. As told earlier, particles with a zero or integral spin are known as bosons. And hence, these Cooper pairs behave just like bosons, even though they are formed of two fermions. Another important point is that bosons do not obey Pauli's exclusion principle. Hence, any number of bosons can be accommodated in a single energy level. So, as the temperature reaches absolute zero, all the Cooper pairs will condense to the lowest possible energy state. And this situation is similar to Bose-Einstein condensate, which represents the fifth state of matter. Let us move on to the next topic, which is applications of superconductivity. Since 10 or 15% of generated electricity is dissipated in resistive losses in transmission lines, the prospect of zero loss superconducting transmission line is appealing. Current experiments with power applications of high temperature superconductors focus on uses of YbCO, that is yttrium barium copper oxide, in thin film forms. Current densities above 10,000 amperes per square meter are considered necessary for practical power applications, and this threshold has been exceeded in several configurations. Before dealing with the applications of superconductors in detail, let us see the merits of these superconductors, which is explicitly explained by Josephson effect and Josephson junction exhibited by these superconductors. Now, what is Josephson effect and Josephson junction? This figure represents a Josephson junction. A Josephson junction consists of a very thin layer of insulating material placed between two superconducting materials. The red color here represents the insulating material, which is actually sandwiched between two superconducting materials. We are all familiar with the p-n junction in semiconductor physics or electronics. A Josephson junction in superconductivity is analogous to a p-n junction with a depletion region in between them in electronics. Josephson junction is a type of electronic circuit which is capable of switching at very high speeds when operated at temperatures near absolute zero. Usually, when an insulator is present in between two conducting materials, no current will flow through the structure, even if you provide a current source to produce electricity. In 1962, Josephson predicted the flow of current in insulator sandwiched between two superconductors even in the absence of a current source. This is achieved by means of a phenomenon exhibited by quantum particles known as quantum mechanical tunneling. In a Josephson junction, the insulator usually acts as a barrier to the flow of a supercurrent, which arises due to the motion of Cooper pairs. That means the insulator acts as a finite potential barrier to these Cooper pairs, which are in fact quantum particles. But every moving quantum particle has a matter wave associated with it, which is usually represented by this probability wave or matter wave. The wave nature of this moving quantum particle makes the electrons or electron pairs to tunnel through the barrier. As a consequence of the tunneling of the electrons through the insulator, there is a net current across the junction. Quantum mechanical tunneling occurs when a particle moves through a space in a manner forbidden by classical physics due to the potential barrier involved. Here, this shaded region represents the insulator or the potential barrier of finite height. So you don't require any current or voltage source to provide energy to these Cooper pairs. Moreover, we have seen that in quantum mechanical tunneling, the energy of the particle remains the same after tunneling through the barrier. So there is no energy loss or dissipation of energy, and hence the current will flow through the specimen for an infinite period of time. There are three important types of Josephson effect, which include DC Josephson effect, AC Josephson effect, and inverse AC Josephson effect. The first one is DC Josephson effect. According to Brand Josephson, if two superconductors are separated by a sufficiently thin layer of insulator, approximately 10 angstrom units thickness, then a weak superconducting current can tunnel through the potential barrier without any applied voltage. This effect is known as DC Josephson effect. If two superconductors are separated by a thin insulating layer, then quantum mechanical tunneling can occur for Cooper pairs without breaking up the pairs. This condition can be considered as the wave functions for Cooper pairs on each side of the junction, as seen from the previous figure, penetrating into the insulating region and locking together in phase. Under these conditions, a current will flow through the junction in the absence of an applied voltage. Now let us consider the second effect, which is AC Josephson effect. In AC Josephson effect, a Josephson junction will oscillate with a characteristic frequency which is proportional to the voltage across the junction. In other words, if a DC voltage is applied across the junction, an alternating current flows through the junction. That means alternating current is produced here or AC is produced here. Hence the effect is known as AC Josephson effect. The third effect is the inverse of this, which is known as inverse AC Josephson effect. In inverse AC Josephson effect, an alternating voltage provided across the junction causes a direct current to flow through the junction. Here DC, which is actually inverse AC, is produced. Hence it is known as inverse AC Josephson effect. One of the direct applications of Josephson effect in superconductors is in the case of SQUID, which is a superconducting quantum interference device. So SQUID, superconducting quantum interference device, is the basis of a modern, very sensitive technique for measuring the magnetic field of a sample of magnetized material. That means it's a type of magnetometer. It is used to measure the magnetic field, usually very feeble magnetic fields. These types of magnetometers have applications in medical field. Skewed magnetometers are used to detect the paramagnetic response in the liver, which gives an indirect measurement of iron content of the body. Threshold for squid is 10 raised to minus 14 Tesla. That means squids can measure very feeble magnetic fields produced by our heart or brain with a lower limiting value of 10 raised to minus 14 Tesla. But the magnetic field of heart is only 10 raised to minus 10 Tesla, and that of brain is 10 raised to minus 13 Tesla only. Now consider this figure. This is the schematic representation of skewed magnetometer, which is used to measure the value of magnetic field. A skewed consists of two superconducting insulating superconducting junctions. In one superconducting ring, that is, it consists of two Josephson junctions connected together. So this is one Josephson junction consisting of superconductor, insulator, superconductor junction. This is the second Josephson junction, which again consists of an insulator sandwiched between two superconductors. The black region here represents the insulator in each Josephson junction. So squid is a superconducting loop with a weak link to measure magnetic flux changes within that loop. Usually, low temperature superconductors are used for fabricating squid. The principle of working of squid include the fact that a small change in magnetic field produces a variation in the flux quantum. That means when you provide an alternating voltage, current will flow through the junction. This is the voltage which is provided here to the weak link. Then a current flows through that junction, which is actually the supercurrent. This supercurrent has a threshold value. When this threshold value of current is reached, the magnetic field lines will begin to penetrate through that weak link. You can adjust it in such a way that only one flux zone of magnetic field enters the weak link at a time. That means this magnetic field is also quantized. Once the magnetic field enters the weak link, the supercurrent will reach a value below the threshold value. By that time, the next cycle of alternating voltage will be provided to the weak link, which again makes the supercurrent equal to its threshold value. Then again the magnetic flux lines of one flux zone will begin to penetrate the specimen. When the magnetic field enters the specimen, the supercurrent decreases and this cycle repeats. You can measure the number of magnetic flux zones entered the specimen by counting the AC zone cycle. Some of the important applications of squid include detection of magnetic signals from various body parts such as heart, brain, etc. Squid can be used as a storage device for magnetic flux. Squids can be employed for the study of earthquakes. It can also be used for removing paramagnetic impurities from substances. Now let us see some important applications of superconductors. Superconductors play an important role in particle accelerators. Some railway networks are using maglev techniques to create both lift and propulsion, especially Japan, thereby reducing friction to a great extent and allowing very high speeds. MRI scanners use magnetic fields and radio waves to form images of body parts. Another application is in the case of squids, that is superconducting quantum interference devices to measure the feeble magnetic field produced by body parts. It's a magnetometer. Fifth application, superconductors are used in power transmission. Power transmission loss is one of the biggest concern worldwide. By installing supergrids in power transmission systems, it is possible to reduce power transmission losses to a great extent. Supergrid is a distribution system in which superconductors are used for transmission lines to reduce power loss. Another application is in the case of superconducting motors, and they are of new type. They are AC synchronous motors that employ high temperature superconductors in place of conventional copper coils. Another important application is in quantum computers. Now, the next topic is high temperature superconductors. Superconductors can be classified into low temperature superconductors and high temperature superconductors based on their critical temperature. The high temperature superconductors represent a new class of materials which bear extraordinary superconducting and magnetic properties and great potential for wide ranging technological applications. Ordinary or metallic superconductors usually have transition temperatures of about 30 Kelvin, whereas the high temperature superconductors have been observed with critical temperatures as high as 138 Kelvin. Since their critical temperature is greater than the boiling temperature of liquid nitrogen, which is 77 Kelvin, these superconductors are known as high temperature superconductors. Until recently, only certain compounds of oxygen and copper, known as cuprates, were believed to have high temperature superconducting properties, and the term high temperature superconductor was used interchangeably with cuprate superconductor for compounds such as bismuth, strontium, calcium, copper oxide (BsCCO), yeah, and yttrium, barium, copper oxide (YbCO). However, several iron-based compounds are now known to be superconducting at high temperatures. The BCS theory could explain the behavior of low-temperature superconductor. Examples for low-temperature superconductors include niobium, and its critical temperature is 9.25 Kelvin. Niobium germanium alloy, its critical temperature is 23.2 Kelvin. Niobium tin alloy, its critical temperature is 18.1 Kelvin. A critical temperature of 40 Kelvin was achieved in lanthanum strontium copper oxide. By changing lanthanum to yttrium and strontium to barium, a critical temperature of 93 Kelvin can be achieved. The transition temperature for some other high temperature superconductors like mercury, barium, calcium, copper oxide is 135 Kelvin. The superconductivity of these 123 materials is mediated by an excitonic mechanism. Excitons are virtual electron hole pairs which act as exchange particles for the attractive interaction between carriers. Resonating valence band model proposed by Anderson and his co-workers explains the high temperature superconductivity. According to this theory, the pairing mechanism is magnetic in origin and not conventional BCS type. The superconductivity is achieved by increasing the resonance along bond lines and through interaction with lattice vibrations. Little is known about the working mechanism of high temperature superconductors, one of the most important as yet unanswered questions in physics.